What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu. You are watching the Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we talk about all things that matter to me in the world of Marvel films. Let's talk about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I hope you guys have checked it out on the big screen in 3D and in IMAX 3D because it is a fantastic film. It's a spectacular film, and it is currently and still #1 at the domestic box office. Currently at $201 million at the domestic box office. Worldwide, it has made $586 million, and it's still got a lot of money to be made in the future weeks to come. But anyways, here's a little fun film fact for you guys. The amount of money that Captain America: The Winter Soldier has made domestically in 3 weekends is the same amount of money that Thor: The Dark World made domestically in its entire theatrical run. So that tells you that there's some huge box office potential for Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So I hope you guys have checked it out because it is really a great film. Oh yeah, one thing that I gotta mention is that if you love Captain America: The Winter Soldier, then you're gonna love these drawings of the Captain America: Winter Soldier characters from my good friend Mark. He is a very talented artist, and check out his stylized versions of these characters: Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Falcon, the Winter Soldier, and of course Black Widow. Check that out. It looks great, and show him some support. I'm going to leave you the link on the description box below where you can purchase these art prints while supplies last. And thanks, Mark, for making these available. I really like them, and I want you guys at the Ragin Nation to have an opportunity to own them as well. Alright, so there you have it. Now moving on, let's talk about X-Men Days of Future Past. Now a little while back, maybe a couple months ago, Bryan Singer announced that Anna Paquin as Rogue won't be making the final cut of the film just because her little character moments in the movie really affected the flow of the film, and it felt like it didn't belong. And unfortunately, her scenes got deleted. Alright, they're just not going to make the final cut of the film. But I guess according to some negative fan reaction and some disappointment expressed by fans, they decided to change that. Her screen time will actually consist of a cameo appearance. Bryan Singer announced this, and it looks like Anna Paquin fans and Rogue fans can rejoice because she is at least going to appear, but with minimal screen time, and it's going to be limited to a cameo appearance. And at least she's there, right? At least she's not completely written off, but it's only going to be maybe a really short scene. So there you have it. That's what's happening with her appearance, and I'm kind of glad that she is making the cut because, you know, she had a pretty important role in X-Men, the first film directed by Bryan Singer, so it would be great to see her back. But I understand why, you know, directors decide to make these little creative decisions, right? So there you have it. She is coming back, all right? Moving on, let's talk about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is coming in 2 weeks. And it's already shown in the UK. Some people have already seen it. I've heard a lot of great reviews. I've heard mixed reviews. I've rather read mixed reviews from critics, but from fans, I've heard positive reviews. Anyways, it turns out that the end credits of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 will have a scene. You know how Marvel films typically have a end scene or end credits scene? Well, Sony Studios with the Amazing the Spider-Man franchise doesn't usually add an end scene. The last time they added something was in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and it was a scene where Lizard was in his prison. And that was it. But it was only a mid-credits scene. It wasn't an end credits scene. Alright? But apparently they are going to be adding an end credits scene, and it's supposed to be a teaser or promo for X-Men Days of Future Past. Now you're probably thinking, how does that work out? X-Men Days of Future Past is from 20th Century Fox. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is from Sony Studios, or Sony Pictures. So what is going on? Is this supposed to mean that there could be a possible crossover between Spider-Man and X-Men? Well, No, no, not at all. Turns out that director Mark Webb actually had a contract with Fox Searchlight, which is I guess, a subsidiary studio company of 20th Century Fox, but he wasn't going to fulfill that simply because he ended up directing The Amazing Spider-Man 2 after directing The Amazing Spider-Man. He was supposed to go back to Fox Searchlight and make a film for them. So what they decided to work out instead, considering that this contract was voided, is that after in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the end credit scene, they have to promote X-Men Days of Future Past. So I guess in the end it all works out. But for any of the fans thinking that could there be a possible crossover, no, it's not happening. So which is kind of unfortunate, but it's kind of a given because these are two competing studios, so that's really not happening at all. Now, speaking of crossover business, could it be possible that Spider-Man would ever cross over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? You know, Spider-Man did join the Avengers in the comic books. Could it ever happen? I think that's something that a lot of fans want to know and want to see. But Spider-Man producers Avi Arad, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but anyways, Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach decided to chime in on the situation, and in short, the answer is no. At least not for a very, very, very long time, simply because there's just so much of the Spider-Man universe there is to explore. The character of Spider-Man is a very, very vast character in terms of all his little conflicts. There's so much story for his character. It's a character with a lot of depth, and there's a lot to be covered in the upcoming sequels. And then there's his relationship with Venom, and then of course there is his conflict with the Sinister Six. That story needs to be told, and of course they haven't even talked about or started talking about Carnage or his relationship with Black Cat. So there's so many different characters to cover in the Spider-Man cinematic universe alone. So there is really, really no possibility in the next coming years that we'll ever see a Spider-Man and Avengers crossover. It's just not going to happen anytime soon, as long as there's still ideas that Sony has for the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, which is a lot of ideas. So unless they run out of ideas, it will happen. But the likelihood of that is very, very thin. All right. So crossover business is really not in their agenda, anytime soon. All right. Now, what about 20th Century Fox? Is there any crossover going to be happening with regards to X-Men and their other Fox property, and that is Fantastic Four? Now, it was mentioned before that Fantastic Four and the X-Men cinematic universe is in the same cinematic universe, all right? Now, even though that could be true, that could be true, it turns out that it really isn't happening. According to comicbookmovie.com, their sources mentioned that Fantastic Four and X-Men, the X-Men franchises, have no plans to cross over anytime soon, simply because Fantastic Four needs to establish themselves as a franchise first. First, they want to make Fantastic Four a success. Then they want to move on to Fantastic Four 2, which they've already have planned for a release in the future. And then after Fantastic Four 2, they want to make Fantastic Four 3. So crossover business is something that the studios really think of is a last resort. Like, they're completely out of ideas, therefore they decide that, okay, it's time to blend these two characters together. All right, so unfortunately, a Fantastic Four and X-Men crossover isn't happening. It's going to be so crazy if they ever did that. That's going to take some serious writing to make that happen. All right, so yeah, I really don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And speaking of X-Men, or rather the X-Men films, of course you guys already know that X-Men Apocalypse is happening. Bryan Singer is the producer for X-Men Apocalypse. No word of who's going to be directing it, but it turns out that the focus of X-Men Apocalypse will feature a lot of the characters from X-Men First Class. Not all of them, but some of the characters. We got young Charles Xavier, Professor X, played by James McAvoy. Young Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender. Nicholas Hoult, who plays Beast, aka Hank McCoy. And Jennifer Lawrence, played by Mystique. Or Mystique played by Jennifer Lawrence. I guess Mystique could play Jennifer Lawrence considering she's a shapeshifter. No word on whether or not there's going to be an appearance by Wolverine, aka Logan, played by Hugh Jackman. But, even though there's, this emphasis of cast members, looks like it's the younger cast, or rather the earlier cast of the X-Men franchise, the X-Men First Class franchise. Does that mean that there's no room for the present day X-Men characters? Well, Patrick Stewart decided to say some things about that, and he was quoted saying that, and I'm going to read this quote, "There might be something else. A little bird has whispered that there might be something X-Men related." So that's a little bit of a teaser or hint that Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart, could be on board for X-Men Apocalypse. Now, there's no word on whether or not X-Men Apocalypse will deal with any time travel, or will it have any flashback sequences. It's still too early to tell, but Patrick Stewart did, give us a little bit of optimism that he might appear in X-Men Apocalypse. So, for Patrick Stewart fans, that's a little bit of hope for you guys. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this video. I just wanted to talk about some of the things that have been going on in the Marvel Universe. I haven't really talked about the Marvel Cinematic Universe with regards to what's going on with Avengers Age of Ultron. Most of what I've talked about is, of course, X-Men and Spider-Man. Well, hopefully we'll have more news for Avengers Age of Ultron in the upcoming episodes. But anyways, as always, if you enjoy any of my updates for the Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, follow me on the Ragin Nation Facebook page. You can chat with me directly on Twitter at Ragin Nation, and if you want to check out any of my photos on Instagram, follow me at the Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.
A tower of t-shirts. It's literally a tower of t-shirts. Wow.